The views and opinions of the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
I call you, I need you, my heart's on fire. You come to me wild and wild. You come to me, give me everything I need. Give me a lifetime of promises and a world of dreams. Speak the language of love like you know what it means. And it can't be wrong. Take my heart and make it strong. You're simply the best. Better than all the rest. Better than anyone. Anyone I've ever met. I'm stuck on your heart. I hang on every word you say. Tear us apart. Baby, I would rather be dead. In your heart, since the start of every night and every day. In your eyes, I get lost, I get washed away. Just as long as I'm here in your arms, I could be in no better place. You're simply the best.
At that point, you must be singing F&Ms. F&M. F&Ms everywhere. And to the PLPs under the sound of my voice. Color red is on the move. Good morning. You know my voice already. It's Leyvon Miller. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for letting me join you. I don't know, other than politicking, what y'all doing out there. Other than that, and catching COVID possibly, right? Outside of politicking and you know, a little bit of COVID catching. Not too much, like a little bit. I'm happy to be in your company. This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. You don't have to guess already. I'm very excited. See, you have to understand. As an I for Tanya FNM, right? I have for a long time not been excited about the FNM, right? I had not been, they had just not titillated me in a way that was of any worth over, I would say, the better part of, give or take 7 years, right? There's been many wonderful maneuvers, many wonderful meanders, if you will, politically. As a self-taught student of politics, I enjoy watching them all. Now we're having the battle of the old dudes. That's what I'm going to call it. I see that the Prime Minister, former Hubert Alexander Ingram, if this was WWF, Kermit, The Rock would say, finally, Hubert Ingram has come back to Elizabeth. Let's hope that it works out well this time. And he minced no words in my estimation. He was very clear. I've come to support Dwayne Sands in Elizabeth. I've come to support Dwayne Sands in Elizabeth. Ma'am, I've come to support, I make no other statement. I've come to support Dwayne Sands in Elizabeth. Well, will you speak at the rallies? Well, you know, I had COVID, mine. And I love the way, and this is what I hope young politicians learn, how to shuffle, right? Because you need to know these things in politics. And as much as people say, oh, we don't like politicians that shuffle, I'll tell you one thing, if you're a bumbling politician, no one likes that even more, right? If you don't believe me, ask Hubert Minnis. So Hubert Ingram says, listen, I've had COVID. I'm a man with comorbidities. My wife has comorbidities. But I've come out here on the invitation of my doctor. When I was dying, this the boy here who keep me alive. And I figure if he don't see that wrong with me being out here, then I could come. But I feel like I would need doctor's clearance to come speak on a rally stage, and I don't think my doctor could give me that kind of clearance, which is basically what he said. And so I look forward to not seeing Hubert Ingram on the rally stage. I doubt he will come back. If you remember, I'm going to play a clip. Let me give ZNS credit now. It's a ZNS clip. I couldn't find one from, our news. But 2013, circa 2013, and this isn't what my show is about. However, there's just no way that Hubert Alexander Ingram puts his foot on the ground and it's not in the media. So, circa 2013, all right, then leader of the Free National Movement, Hubert Minnis, says that the Ingram era was over, that the faction of the Ingram era in the FNM had come to an end. And many people say that Mr. Ingram has a difficulty with this prime minister. Well, I don't know if that could be factually correct, because it was this prime minister here, as leader of the party, that basically banished Mr. Ingram, who, if you would recall, still returned in 2017. And listen, I'm talking about signed, sealed, and delivered the deal. In his own words, he come to take his friend with him into retirement. I remember me say, Christy, retirement feel good. I can put you in the bag, and this time, I can try it. And that he did. And despite all of that, there has still been no real way, no real dialogue, no real communication between a former FNM Prime Minister and the current FNM Prime Minister for whatever the magic of that thought is, right? And you would recall, Mr. Christie say, man, I used to feel bad when Minnis wasn't talking to me, but I hear Minnis don't even talk to Hubert, and well, I don't feel bad no more because, well, God, if he don't talk to Hubert, who I is, right? So here's the clip. I'm going to play it really quickly right before I get to my show. So let's play the clip. Circa 2013, the FNM loses in Abaco. Dr. Minnis makes this statement, and I'm going to read something from Maurice Moore, who I believe is just a sad old man making excuses at this point, because this doesn't say anything, right? And I mean, sad old man in the non-disrespectful way. This stuff that he ran on with in the news today, it makes no sense to me. Let's hear Dr. Minnis.
We will be a stronger, more vibrant party, and we will be successful.
Free National Movement leader Dr. Hubert Minnis says despite a double defeat at the polls, the party is not deterred.
This will not hamper, this will not stop the FNM. This may be a temporary obstruction, but I can assure you, wherever that wall is, we will either break it down, move over it, or move around it. But this will not stop us.
Dr. Minnis says he feels the controversy behind the FNM's candidate had nothing to do with the loss, and he says Greg Gomez has a bright future in the party.
Greg Gomez is a young, vibrant individual, shows leadership caliber, and he will be a part of that cadre of young, energetic leaders that we're inviting into the party. They're expanding the base of the party, and I'd also like to see term limits as we move forward, so that no prime minister in the future can go beyond 2 term limits. And that would allow that expanded base that I talk about to have opportunities to take the country forward. So we will never see that what we've seen in the past.
While thanking his parliamentary colleagues and former FNM leader Hubert Ingram for their support during the campaign, Dr. Minnis indicated that it's also a new day for his party.
That Ingram factor will now be behind us, and we must see the new FNM moving forward. I want to wish him the best in going forth in his retirement, and hope that he enjoys his retirement.
I'm Opal Road.
Not I want to thank him. Not I want to thank him for his contributions to this organization. We are and have been government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas on 3 separate occasions, largely in part to Mr. Ingram's having joined the FNM and taking the helm. It is upon his shoulders that I stand. None of that. Just I hope he go into retirement fast, and come from around here, basically. All right, and so Maurice Moore is inside the news this morning, and he's saying, the Free National Movement founding father, Maurice Moore, yesterday expressed his support for Prime Minister Dr. Minnis, suggesting that he has done more for the Bahamas than any other prime minister. I don't know where y'all keep getting that from. Moore's comments came after former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram endorsed Elizabeth incumbent Dr. Dwayne Sands in his run for the seat at a constituency event on Saturday and expressed his hopes to see Sands as Prime Minister one day. And he didn't say that he wanted to see Sands as prime minister one day. He says, well, listen to me. You know, I hope he's as lucky as I was. I was fired from cabinet. As a cabinet minister, I was re-elected, and I went on to become prime minister. Hopefully, he could have the same fate. But that didn't say that he said that he wanted the man to be the prime minister. You see how y'all has tweaked these stories, you know, to sensationalize them. This also goes, so it goes on to say, Saturday, and expresses hopes to see Sands as prime minister one day. In an interview, Moore said he does not agree with Ingram's public support of Sands as prime minister, which he labeled as a personal feeling. I support the present leader of our country. He is the chosen leader of our party and doesn't make any sense as far as I'm concerned, assenting anything that could be misunderstood, he said. Our leader of the FNM is Dr. Minnis, and all of the support that ought to be given at this time ought to be given to our leader. But to suggest Dr. Sands to the public as possible leadership is controversial as far as I'm concerned. That's Mr. Ingram's personal opinion, and he has one vote, that's all. Moore expressed confidence in Minnis' ability to continue to lead the country out of the COVID-19 pandemic. He said, and this is the part that made me laugh, he said the country needs a leader like Minnis at this time, particularly since the virus has overtaken the world. We need a man with knowledge and ability in the medical field, and his recommendation and his decisions on what the country must take under the circumstances, Moore added. So we need a man that is knowledgeable and has ability in the medical field. If I fell down right now in the Guardian building and I needed a doctor for whatever the reason, I don't care what's wrong. I don't care if I have temporary blindness and I fall down because of it. Y'all, please go get Dr. Sands, yeah? And speed, tell him, Leyvon have a problem. I want him to speed here. If we ask him which doctor I think has competence and ability, I could go with the cardiothoracic surgeon. I lie. That's the truth. I guess I like lie. All right, so it says, so I'm very happy that he is our prime minister, and I hope and I pray that he will be again, because he's done more for the Bahamas than any other prime minister, including the former FNM prime minister. Wow. That's amazing. I fully support him. So Atlanta's ain't standing there. What about Bahama? That's standing there. What about sandals and breezes and the airwaves and the public transportation release and the taxi plate release and you can't just make these statements in a vacuum. So because the dude had a hurricane and a pandemic that the whole world had, he's the greatest prime minister. He's done more than any other prime. Not NIB, not like the establishment of the defense force, not the Bahamianization of the police force, not the establishment of the broadcasting corporation, none of that. Man, y'all gotta stop. I want y'all to stop it. Moore also offered well wishes to all FNM candidates in the upcoming election, noting that he hopes at least 80% of them win and are successful in their constituency. I don't wish to put any special congratulations or make any special recognition for any member other than the member who is running in my constituency in Central Grand Bahama. And you see how y'all make these statements tongue-in-cheeky? Oh, I ain't got nobody I endorse him as a founding father of the blasted party. But, if I had to, the fellow who running in my area, that's an endorsement. And what difference would it make if Hubert Ingram could go and endorse a PLP if he likes? The man has been a prime minister. It's like a Kennedy. If a Kennedy shows up to your event, then you have the support of a Kennedy. I don't see why you ought to be castigated in the news for it. Anyway, so that was just really funny to me. Kermit, I want to play Papa Song one more time. Take me to the break on that. When I get back, I'll give you an opportunity to meet my guest. We're going to talk about agriculture in the Bahamas and what does it mean, and what does any government about to take the reins of power in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas need to understand from the eye and the view of a farmer. I want you to play it so I could make sure you all feel. I believe in the Obeah politics. I believe in the Obeah politics. And I saw Papa on the ground and all I heard was FNMs. FNMs everywhere. And to the PLPs under the sound of my voice, Color Red is on the move. Don't move. I've got more show for you on the next side of the break. This is Leyvon Miller. It's Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. We'll be back.
I'm stuck on your heart.
Hello, Bahamas. My name is Dr. Dwayne Sands. I was born and raised in Centerville, in the heart of the valley, Nassau, Bahamas. I'm a proud Bahamian. I've been fortunate to represent the great people of Elizabeth for the last 5 years. It has always been my dream to serve my country, and I have been involved in the political process on the front line since 2009. I am very, very proud of the support of my family, who have been with me from the beginning and who are still with me to this day. In particular, my wife, Larica, and all of my children, and actually there's quite a few of them. I'm actually a cardiovascular surgeon. What that means is I take on the sickest people with the biggest problems every day. And so for me, the political process to deal with the challenges facing our country is pretty much par for the course. It's what I do every day. I am happy to be a part of the great team of the Free National Movement under the leadership of Dr. Hubert Minnis. We are indeed Elizabeth Strong.
This has been a paid political announcement by the F&M candidate for Elizabeth.
Hey, did you find the show interesting? Do you want to be a part of the conversation? Well, sponsor Unleashed today. Call 302-2304 or 302-2375 to see which package is right for you. Join Leyvon Miller as he ignites the passion of the next generation by bridging the gap with engaging conversations and innovative ideas. Take action and sponsor Unleashed today at 302-2304 or 302-2375 and be unleashed.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure. We will be sure. Oh, glory.
Thank you for staying with me. Welcome back. It's Leyvon Miller. It's Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. And if you hear my voice, that means it's somewhere between 11 and 12 o'clock. That means I'm on Unleashed on your radio. I've got with me Dion Gibson on the line. He is my guest this morning. Y'all have to excuse me. I must say right before he come on. See, when you are an I for Tanya F&M, you have to understand that if Papa show up to the door, you ever watch Spot 300, Kermit? You just say, "This one is for you, my king," for Sparta to the death. And you march to the poll. I actually want to go sit down now and wait by the polling station and say, "Where the line for all the people Hubert Ingram endorsed? Let me stand on that." That's the line I want to go on, right? You have to understand. I saw the 97, the 92, and the 97 F&M, and that was enough to convince me. Text right here says, "Leyvon, you really got to blame the reporters that seek out Mr. Morris more for a national story. His opinion only matters to the F&Ms in the fan club." All right, so Dion is with me. He's on the line. Is he there? Dion, are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
All is well, man. How are you?
I'm great. So we're talking farming, right? You're down in Eleuthera. I know you did some time in Abaco. You have been in the chicken farming business for quite some time. People know you as Gippy the farmer. And I know that there is an election fastly approaching, right? 10 more days to be exact. When you listen to the parties, when you listen to what's going on in and around the politicking of the message of each of the parties, as a farmer, somebody that has been doing it out of pocket for much of the time that you've been doing it, I don't know how you're doing it these days, but are you hearing the kinds of messages you need to hear in order to make you feel some sort of hopefulness as a farmer?
If I could be completely honest, not particularly. I've heard one or two candidates, one on either side of the two major political parties actually have mentioned it. And I've seen some of the narratives from one of the third parties with regards to agriculture and promoting the industry. Mm-hmm. But, we still have a very, very long way to go.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is missing largely from the plans when you hear them? Like are there, for instance, for me, I'm in the ground transportation business, right? And so when I listen to parties talk about ground transportations, most times I cringe because none of the stuff they say is what I find to be the case in the industry. All right? I mean, is it the same for you in the agriculture business?
I would say yes. I mean, a lot of it, I feel as though it's a lot of rhetoric that we've heard over and over, and some of those, I guess, feel good words and terms that are thrown around a lot of the time. And there's a lot more to it that we need in order to get the industry to go where it needs to go and where it used to be. But, times have changed, so therefore certain things have to change with the times. We can't just do things the same way we have,
What would you say are some of the fundamental things, I guess, legislatively and then in investments that you would look for from a new government that was serious about agriculture? And I want to talk specifically to chicken farming because I don't know if we realize that the Bahamas used to have at one point, was it 3 major producers of chicken? There was Gladstone Farms, there was Abaco, Big Bird, and wasn't there a third one?
There was one over here in a Luther prior to Abaco Big Bird, but that would have been the Harris Brothers farm out in Hatchet Bay. Well, that was more than just chickens. That was poultry, poultry and dairy primarily. So they produce milk, beef, and cheese out there, actually.
Okay.
But with regards to the things that need to change, like as you spoke about legislative, because primarily a lot of it is policy on the government's part. And I don't want to negate that. The public has a role to play as well as the farmers have a role to play in this as well. But from a policy standpoint, some of the things that I jotted down a few things just so I don't go off. But we have our tariffs need to be revisited heavily with regards to protecting the farmers and crops or agricultural products that are produced locally. Because when you can import something at a fraction of the cost of production and resale value here in what is being produced locally, you kill out your small farmers, and 95% of farmers in the Bahamas, by our standards, are small farmers. Other items would be to push for some type of crop insurance, which isn't really policy, but I think that the government does have a role in that. I've heard talks about it, not so sure how far it has gotten to this point. The packing house system and the subsidy provided to farmers, I think that we're still operating on a $9,000 a year subsidy, which is primarily geared towards family island farmers through the packing houses on the islands, which most of them are not functioning as they used to or as they should. Other things would be the feed mills. I don't think that the government has full responsibility to provide feed for our farmers, but if you're going to, let's produce the best quality feed that we can. The fish and farm store that's supposed to offer implements and material and supplies at a discounted rate. Very often the conversation is had in a lot of the agricultural groups that I'm a part of that, it's cheaper for me to bring in my own stuff and use my farm registration to get exemption than it is to go there. And that, to me, that's a major thing because not every farmer has the, let me find the best way to put it, the means or the ways to bring in and import their own implements. I mean, we have some farmers that are now doing it, bringing things wholesale to assist the farmers, to assist other farmers, which is good. And, those are just a few things, I think, as well as the exemption. I think first-time farmers or someone trying to start a farm or make a major upgrade to their farm, we currently are afforded with farm registration. You simply get duty-free, so that's no stamp tax, but you still have to pay VAT. And that 12% is sometimes more than what the stamp tax would have been. And I don't think that it should be the lesser of the two. I think that first-time farmers, major upgrades, should be given a complete tax exemption, in my opinion. And I think, these are just a few of the things that I think would be needed, which can be done on a legislative level with the exception of the crop insurance to really assist and improve, the agriculture industry in the country.
I have before me the Progressive Liberal Party's economic plan, right? And they say here that they have to reprioritize achieving food security with BAMSI playing a critical role, facilitate the expansion of the agricultural and fisheries industry for local and export consumption by offering incentives and funding, explore expansion of salt product on Long Island, Ragged Island, and Rum Key, develop comprehensive regulatory framework for growing, harvesting, and exporting cannabis so that the industry creates opportunities for many, not just a few, implement comprehensive programs to fell the pine forests. You are in the agribusiness. Does that in any way reach you? Any of those things that they said up?
Each and every one of them reached me, and I think there's, and with the exception of cannabis, none of them are new. And I want to caution any political party, any government to let's slow down, let's pump the brakes with regards to exporting food. We have to first be able to feed ourselves. Let's set attainable goals.
Right.
You know, when we can feed ourselves and all of our tourists, because it's not just us who we have to feed. We have to feed 5 million, whatever it may be for the year. Though it's 5 million extra bodies that enter these shores. We would know that previous government and existing governments have discussed that the cruise ships would buy produce from local farmers when they are in port, and so that's in that 5 million. I mean, we can't think that our farmers in the current state are going to be able to drop and take enough food to feed a cruise ship holds anywhere from 2,000 to 3,500 people, and sometimes you have 6 of them in port. We're talking about feeding 12,000 to 14,000 people or 15,000 people at one time when we're not even feeding ourselves. We have to take care of home at first. But with regards to the other items, the pine forest, I find that very interesting. Abaco and Andres once had a very thriving timber industry, which I don't see why it cannot be returned if managed sustainably and properly.
Right.
And that's a revenue source we have not really even explored in recent times.
Correct. I agree.
With the cannabis, I'm not a user, but I'm a proponent of recreational, medicinal, and even construction and other byproducts that come from the plant. I think we are not just behind the 8 ball, we're behind the 9, 10, 11, and 12 ball right now on that. Because all of our Caribbean counterparts, smaller nations, which are already known for producing marijuana, have already jumped on that bandwagon, as well as non-traditional areas such as Canada, out in California, Colorado, all of these other places are already on it. Do we have a place? Yeah, we have a place. It may not be, if I'm speaking realistically from my opinion, I don't think that we will, gain as much as we think. But, that's a twofold thing, too, because I believe it'll cut back on the illicit drug trade and, in turn, cut back on crime, drug-related crime.
Well, certainly the budget for funding against crime, it should reduce that.
Yeah.
Now, we have been, again, like I said, at the place before in our nation's history where there were at least 3, noteworthy poultry farms for sure, or at least 2 noteworthy poultry farms, and you say a farm in Luther that was kind of multi-tiered, right? Have we regressed, and what does it take for us to even get back to the level where we at least provide all the chicken that we eat?
We have definitely regressed. I mean, eggs is a great passion of mine. I guess I do a small correction. I'm not just strictly poultry. I'm sustainable agriculture. So right now I manage at the One Lutra Foundation a smaller farm, but we produce various fruit crops, vegetable crops, eggs, and honey. So, and these are all different varying sectors. But with regards to the poultry, I always find it very, very interesting that only at the turn of the millennium did we start importing eggs into this country. And so that's within the last 20 years, we started importing eggs into the Bahamas.
What would you say was the cause?
What caused that?
Yeah.
The cause of that was policy changes, especially the tariffs. We go back to the tariffs. They dropped the tariff on eggs. You had the larger wholesalers petition the government, I guess, throw their weight around and petition the government that, hey, I can bring in eggs cheaper than the eggs can be produced. We remember driving down Gladstone Road and the whole place smelled like a chicken farm.
Yeah.
That's because not only Gladstone Farms, there were about 3 other farms on that road. There were egg farms along Cowpen Road, And in Grand Bahama as well, you left that one out. The meanest farm produced a lot of meat as well as eggs for this country. And all of those farms have since pretty much disappeared. Abaco Big Bird is strictly broilers, which are meat birds. And at one point, all of KFC's chicken came from the local meat bird producers. And we have definitely regressed. And if you go back even further, you know, we exported to the eastern seaboard of the United States and the UK. Not everything, but various crops. I'm in Rocktown, and just up the road in Tarpon Bay, which is the tomato capital of the Bahamas, exporting across the eastern seaboard of the U.S., the Bahamas, and as far as the UK. There have been various efforts by persons with various means, and when I say various means, one of the wealthiest families in the country opened up a world-class operation, a bit out of place, but they were producing, and even they have issues with getting their products sold direct to consumers or even to the wholesalers or food stores. So, you know, there is a role that the government, the legislative branch of our country has to play in terms of protecting this. If we mean this, you know, we have to. And I just want to reiterate something I've said various times before, that COVID-19 and Dorian were not the time to look at agriculture and producing your own food as a trend. It's our life. It's how we eat. It's how we survive. There's one thing that you have to do every day, and that's eat and drink water. You have to do that if you want to survive, I mean. You know, so we have to think about this not just as an industry or a means of making money. One of my favorite quotes related to agriculture says that a country that grows its own food, or a country that owns its own agriculture, not only possesses riches, but possesses riches that she can truly call her own. That's a paraphrase. But agricultural goods and natural resources are the one thing that you can truly say that you own. Everything else is kind of here or there, but if you can produce it on your soil, that is yours.
How are farmers going to contribute to this entire thing, though? I mean, because what it sounds to me is though you said the mercantile class has put pressure on governments of the past in order to get them to do things like tariff adjust, right? And I know that is a big deal. I know that is what killed the rice industry in Haiti, tariff adjustments, right? America, the import of rice from America became so cheap that it made no sense to grow rice anymore. And if you follow history well enough, you'll know that I think in 1934, it was actually plantation economics and rice growing that got Haiti out of the doldrums economically, and also rescued America, right? So I understand the difficulty with tariff pricing, but I think if farmers are going to assist the government, Kippy, then they've either got to find a way to make sustainable farming cheaper or more affordable, right? Like, I don't know if I could afford a $10 chicken. I don't care what you feed him, I can't buy him for $10. When I could go into the food store and buy imported chicken that costs $4.35. You see? So how do we add farmers into the sustainability of an agribusiness product that causes the consumer, the Bahamian consumer, to want to buy the chicken that the Bahamian farmer took forever to grow? And you know, in a former incarnation of my life, I grew chickens at one very small point for a very small time. And I can tell you, keeping chickens alive is difficult, right? Everything kills them, the dogs, the bugs. Yep. And sometimes you may have a chicken that you feed for 10 months and it never lays a single egg, right?
Yeah.
And so I get it. It is a cost-intensive operation. But is there any way that the farmer can add, I guess, some sort of machination to his operation that causes it to not be so burdensome on the consumer?
You know, that's a good question, and it's a tricky one, simply because our cost of operation. We may have a very poor cost of living minimum wage ratio, but our minimum wage compared to other places that produce food is very high, believe it or not. And so therein lies one of our biggest problems, the cost of labor. If you want to grow your farm into something big, you have to hire more labor. Even if you have your family, you still have to pay your children and grandchildren in some way. and you have to pay yourself. One of the biggest things I think we need farmer education, consumer education, government education straight around when it comes to
I don't see that
agriculture.
I don't see that in the economic plan. And see, that is one of the things I was trying to drive you towards. I think they talk about agriculture, and again, only the PLP plan I have in front of me, but they talk about agriculture as if it is already an existing, thriving thing. No, we are going to need to have to, and they talk about BAMSI, of course, yes, but we're going to need to have to make a more inclusive appetite for agriculture so that we get some agriculturists that actually want to go and do this thing and make it a beneficial business for them. And I don't know if I see or hear enough language targeting that you know what I mean, that specific result.
Yeah, so back to the farmer's role though. The farmer's role and some of the things that are missing, I think a lot of our farmers miss the marketing opportunities that they themselves can pursue. And I had a conversation with the young Agri Youth 242, that's the name of our WhatsApp group, about 50 of us young persons in the industry, ranging from about 15 upwards to maybe 40 might be the oldest person in the group. And, we spoke about how marketing is a major issue. There's a lot of produce, there's a lot of food being grown in this country, but there's also a huge amount of wastage. So getting that to the consumer in a timely manner is a big thing, because we find that at the packing houses sometimes when it reaches to BAIC produce is showing some things are past right, and Bahamians are afraid to buy a firm red tomato. To them, that overripe.
Okay.
You can pick a tomato green, but a firm red tomato is still not, doesn't mean that it's going to expire. When you buy that firm red tomato that comes from the States, you got to realize that already had about a 1 to 2 week shipping period being off the vine. So that tomato that you get here within a few days is still going to last you a lot longer than what you would import. So that's one thing why I always say is the consumers have to be educated, but it's on the farmer to educate the consumer as well as to harvest their crop within a timely manner so that it does not impact the shelf life of the produce. Not only the marketing and harvest time, but we need better post-harvest practices. There have been a number of courses, good agricultural practices, also referred to as GAP, that have been offered through the government, through other non-governmental agencies for farmers. And I've attended several workshops, and yes, you can't always leave your farm, but the turnout is generally pretty poor when you understand the amount of farmers that we have in the country. And, all of these things play a role in it, because if you harvest your produce, your leafy greens from the field, and you do your cold water bath to bring that field temperature down, all of these things that to me may sound simple because I've had the exposure and I come to understand it. You talk to some of the older farmers and I don't have the time to do that. I just got to keep picking and get them there when I can. But you are shortening the lifespan of your product. Right. The only way cost will go down is when we have a regular supply, which will require some modern practices such as hydroponics, or even a simple investment of putting a movable shade cloth over your field production, if not the whole thing, a portion of it, so that you have an extended growing period. Okay. A big reason a lot of the wholesalers and other consumers or hotels and restaurants do not like to go into business directly with farmers is because they cannot guarantee the quantity and quality on a consistent basis. There are many factors that are not necessarily all the farmer's fault. However, if you're going to promise someone something, and most people will make you sign a contract. So if I sign a what do you call it? A LOI, a letter of intent.
Right.
You will have to live up to that. If I say that I'm going to bring you 8 dozen eggs a week or 80 dozen eggs a week, I can't come and say I got 15 this week and I can make up the deficit next week. It simply does not work like that.
Yeah, no.
And we have to get to that point, and it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight, and I don't want anyone to think that this is, a matter of just saying I can do it. You have to first say you can do it, but you have to figure out what steps you need to take to get there.
Let me read a couple of these text messages, Gippy, and I smile at the contract part because that is very true. If you take out a contract to provide X amount of eggs a week, you better find the eggs, even if you got to go lay them yourself. A text right here says, Shivago often says it is not lost on him that his policy removing the tariff quota on chicken helped to destroy the local production of chicken. I don't know if he has ever said that, but this is what the text writer says. The packing houses system was advertised for private citizens such as your guest and his colleagues to partner with the government, and they did not even bother to apply. What do you say to that?
My thing is, I personally have not had to go to the parking house. I've been able to market my stuff without going to the parking house.
Farm to table.
Some farmers are able to, and I don't. My thing is, the parking house still offers the same maximum of $9,000 a year that I think was implemented from the Lyndon was Prime Minister. I don't want to make it political, but I mean, that's the reality. They have offered $9,000 a year, and who can survive off $9,000 a year right now? I'm not saying that the parking house does not have a place, but the current model is outdated, heavily outdated. There are machines in just about every parking house that former Prime Minister Christie, and I really want to stay away from politics, but we have to speak facts now. Former Prime Minister Christie bragged about the onion drying machine that was in the same state that it was when he was Minister of Agriculture and purchased the machine down in Angus. There are machines in the parking houses here in Aluso that are in the same state, and those machines are no longer even being made. So if we're gonna try and launch out at the farmers, let's talk all the facts. I said farmers have their role to play, but the thing is, the current setup is not ideal. Yes, there have been some change. There has been some increase of products coming into the parking house. However, we need, and who's going to the produce exchange in Nassau? Very few people go there.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Gippy, don't move. I got to take a break. Stay on the line. I'll be right back with 90 seconds.
And I approve this message.
This has been a paid political announcement by the independent candidate for Pine Ridge.
COVID-19. Do not panic. Be prepared. If you plan to travel, keep updated on travel advisories from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Be sure to wash your hands often and have travel-sized hand sanitizers and disinfecting wipes readily available. Keep your distance from persons who are coughing and sneezing. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. This can help protect you from COVID-19 infection and other respiratory diseases.
This message brought to you by Bahamas Ministry of Health in conjunction with Guardian Radio.
Hello, Bahamas. My name is Dr. Dwayne Sands. I was born and raised in Centerville, in the heart of the valley, Nassau, Bahamas. I'm a proud Bahamian. I've been fortunate to represent the great people of Elizabeth for the last 5 years. It has always been my dream to serve my country, and I have been involved in the political process on the front line since 2009. I am very, very proud of the support of my family, who have been with me from the beginning and who are still with me to this day. In particular, my wife, Larica, and all of my children, and actually there's quite a few of them. I'm actually a cardiovascular surgeon. What that means is I take on the sickest people with the biggest problems every day. And so for me, the political process to deal with the challenges facing our country is pretty much par for the course. It's what I do every day. I am happy to be a part of the great team of the Free National Movement under the leadership of Dr. Hubert Minnis. We are indeed Elizabeth Strong.
This has been a paid political announcement by the FNM candidate for Elizabeth.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Thank you for staying with me at Leyvon Miller. It's Guardian Radio. I'm Unleashed. That means it's between 11 and 12 o'clock. I have on the line with me Gippy the Farmer. He's an Eleuthera. You know, he's like the Holy Ghost power. He moves like a magnet here, there, and everywhere. The last time I checked, he was in Africa, but he's now in Eleuthera. Doing the thing that he's been doing for as long as I've known him. Like, I know people that do all sorts of things throughout their lives. You know, the whole, you got to recreate yourself. Nope. Gippy the Farmer has been farming for as long as I have known him. I've not ever known him to be Gippy than anything else. And I guess it's people like him that is keeping it alive. So, Gippy, we've got about 4 minutes left. I want to talk to you very, very specifically now about farmer partnerships and the burden of labor. You know, the fishermen had this difficulty earlier in the year where Minister Michael Pintard passed a legislation that didn't allow anybody that wasn't a Bahamian to be on board a Bahamian fishing vessel, right? Because, you know, they had the whole, you hired a Honduran as the engineer and he could shoot fish better than all the Bahamians on the boat, right? Are those challenges present in the agriculture business, and do you all need foreign labor? And then what is the possibilities of some of the difficulties that you face, whether it is with packing houses or with production or with waste or with loss? Can any of that be mitigated through farm partnerships?
So, two things I really want to focus on, the labor element, not negating the others, but the labor element and the waste management. Labor. With our current minimum wage, it's sad to say that foreign labor is usually 90% the better labor. One, because a lot of our immigrants that come to this country have somewhat of a farming background, whether it was necessity or cultural. And so that makes it easier, whereas the average Bahamian, nobody grows up farming with their grandparents anymore. It simply doesn't really happen. There's still a small amount, I should say, but that's not traditional or normal anymore.
Yeah.
So we do require foreign labor. I would love to say that we could do it with purely Bahamian labor, but at the cost of operation, you know, you already have high electricity and with the amount of water a farm uses, if you're using fresh water from water and sewage, you're racking up a bill there as well. So you have to look for the cheapest labor possible.
Yeah.
And that's like I said, labor cost is a huge issue for agricultural production in the Bahamas. With regards to waste management, I think that something we need to really heavily look at on a national level, and this was a partnership, getting the restaurants, even the cruise ships involved with, and I know we have some small people doing it, composting. We know that we have a very thin layer of topsoil in the Bahamas, which is easily depleted of nutrients. And compost is essentially soil making. That's how soil came to be through nature, through the decomposition of leaves and other organic matter in nature. And so we can take, or not to say every farmer has to do it, but that's an avenue of agriculture someone can go more heavily into.
Yeah.
Start a composting plant. There's spraying systems out in the airport industrial park who does it. But we need much more
because it's a problem through the whole country.
Yes, and therefore you reduce your landfill, which is a lot of food waste in this country, especially through the hotels and the cruise ship and homes. You know that in the U.S. you have to separate your garbage. Your brown paper bags, any brown material which would be plant origin, can be composted and turned into soil that farmers can use. So now we tackling something outside of the norms of agriculture as the average person may see it, but we're also answering a problem that we have within the agriculture industry.
Gippy, Go on.
Yep.
I was just letting you know, I think we're going to have to cap it because we're almost at the time. I just want to make sure you look at the clock.
Yeah, no problem. I'm looking. And the last thing on the parking houses, I think it's something where we can't just have the technocrats sit in the office and write these plans. We need everyone to come together. We need a consumer, such as a AML or a Cisco Foods. I'm not going to call it Bahamas Food Services because Cisco owns that. And them, along with the farmer, along with a Rupert Roberts, a food store owner, as well as the technocrats and policymakers to sit at the table and figure out how best this works. Very seldom does everyone brought to the table. I always tell people there are 4 elements. There's the producer, there's the technocrat, there's the policymaker, and then there's the consumer. If these 4 people don't sit down and figure out how best it's going to work,
chaos,
then it probably won't work.
Yeah. I appreciate your time, Gippy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, too, for having me, man.
Yep. Do what you're doing in Lutra, buddy. Don't keep the fire burning. Anyway, we'll catch up, buddy. Thank you.
Indeed, man. Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, so I was talking to Gippy the farmer.
If you'd
I was
like to
talking
make...
to Gippy the farmer. I mean, the guy's been farming for as long as I know him. But of course, I got to have some politics at the end. Because if Hubert ain't going to come on the ground, man, that must mean it's election time for real. I tell you, I could hear it. And you know what makes me smile? The clip that I played from the Prime Minister, right? He was furious about the fact that no Prime Minister ought to stay longer than 2 terms. Infuriated. No other Prime Minister will ever get that opportunity. And for almost 5 years gone, and the fella ain't put the term limiting in place yet. And he said in his next time in office, and in the words of MM, if nobody don't if MM nobody don't stop him, he might go for another one. 80-year-old Prime Minister say it sound too bad. It's been done in the world before. Anyway, I'm so happy to see that Papa is out. Papa is out! That must mean it's politics time for true. And as an eye for Tanya FNM, nothing excites me more. Once again, finally, Hubert Ingham has come back to Elizabeth. FNMs everywhere, and PLPs under the sound of my voice. Color Red is on the move, y'all hear me? Anyway, that's been my time. It's Leyvon Miller. It's Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. I've been at least on your radio. Don't move, though. They've got the news. That's that.